Today on Tricrow Studios, we do a high gain amp shootout between the Peavey 6505 Plus and the Mesa Boogie F-100. Now, I would like to reiterate here that this is a high gain amp shootout. That's why it's titled that way. So you're not going to hear any clean, you're not going to hear any breakup. This is just high gain geared towards metal. I'd also like to note that I am boosting both amps with an Ibanez TS9 for the first sound sample only. But I do have two sound samples for you today, the first of which is a somewhat balanced EQ type setting. That's in drop B. Then we move on to drop A sharp with a more scoop type setting. Alright, so there you go. There are the two sound samples for the high gain amp shootout between the Peavey 6505 Plus and the Mesa Boogie F-100. You don't generally hear a ton about the F-100. I don't know if it's maybe considered one of those lost amps of the Mesa Boogie history. Generally, when I do hear about it, it's usually like, oh, I had an F50 combo or an F100, whatever combo. But yeah, it is one of those amps that, I don't know, I love it. It's I treat it like it's a secret weapon because it does drop tuning really, really well. Also, a lot of people you generally ask, what version of the 6505 Plus am I running? It's the Made in USA version. They moved everything over to China, kept the same components, I believe, and then I think they changed things up a little bit for the 6505 too. But it is at this point in the video where I like to go over what I've gained from doing a shootout like this. And I do want to say that I think this particular shootout may have opened my mind and changed my mind a little bit when it comes to the F-100. Because the F-100, I always considered one of those amps that you wouldn't generally boost. I've boosted it in the past, and I felt like, yeah, I can get what I want without boosting it. However, this one here, and I think it has a lot to do with the bass control, because it's a Mesa Boogie amp. We're talking about a ton of low end here. My bass control, when I'm not boosting, is almost off. It's actually sitting at about, we'd say about 430 or 5. So that's basically off. However, when it comes to boosting, you're boosting the guitar signal, and what it generally will do, if there's a ton of low end, and it seems like it's brick walling or clipping, that kind of low end, it smooths things out. So it retains that that chunk and the thud without actually brick walling things, and it enables you to actually raise the bass control at the same point. And of course, you're getting some earlier saturation in the gain, so you're able to bring your gain control down, and you get like a little bit more of a clear sound. But I think my experience here, I think I was able to actually get a setting that I preferred, that it was boosted. So I don't know, I think I'll have to keep going on with the F-100 and maybe trying boosting it a little more like I have been with the 6505 Plus. Another amp that I always said, I don't know if I really ever want to boost that amp. But what I did think, or what I did gain from doing this, I noticed that, we're talking about a Peavey 6505 Plus here, so that lower mid-range that you get, that really nice low mid-focus from a 6505 Plus, it's definitely present in the mix there. And then, of course, going to the F-100, you could hear a little more high end in the sound. It doesn't necessarily match the 6505 Plus for that lower mid-range, but the mid-range on the F-100 or the F series itself, I think is just fantastic. And it's much different than like the Rectifier or the Mark series. It's awesome when it comes to down-tuned guitars. I think personally, I've always thought that it outperforms the Mark V, Mark IV, and of course the dual rectifier series when it comes to down tuning. However, when it came to scooping, I just find that the 6505 Plus, personally, just handles taking some of that mid-range out a little better than the F-100. I think that's just because of the way that the mids are laid out and the way that everything responds. You do have to skew or at least I find you do have to skew the high end on the 6505 Plus, or otherwise it sounds very dark. However, I do think just with the way that the low mids are on the 6505 Plus, I think it just has a little bit of an edge when it comes to a scoop sound. Of course, that's just my opinion on what I just did with the specific settings that I used, so it can be very different for yourself. And as always, we are talking about a Peavey product. So if you are looking to purchase a Peavey amp on the used market, I always say this in my videos when it comes to Peaveys. Do yourself a favor, grab a can of contact cleaner. It's like $8 or $9. Set aside about a half hour of your time with some screwdrivers, because what ends up happening, and it has not on the 6505 Plus that I own. The 4 other Peavey amps that I have owned, within the first year of owning them, they've had this issue. But the potentiometers and the contacts within the potentiometers do tend to get dirtier a heck of a lot faster than other amps. So that's when you're going to get that crackly pot. You turn everything and you hear. But what ends up happening is if it's on your volume control or on your gain control, it can actually cut out the signal or lessen the signal. I had a JSX that for the first year that I owned it, I was lazy. I didn't actually clean things out, but if I had the gain in almost any spot that was really pleasing to my ear, it would actually start to cut out. So it would sound good, and then it would sound like it's at half power, and it would come back in, sound, you know what I mean? So I was lazy, so I didn't fix it. But then I did, and it's great. It's not that big of a deal, though, because, as I said, it takes about a half hour. What you do, you unscrew the chassis, pull it out, and then you spray contact cleaner on the inside of all the potentiometers, and then wiggle them. You do that, and it cleans everything. After that process, your amp's probably going to be good for a year and a half, 2 years, maybe a little longer. But it'll sound great after that. But that's all I do want to say. I probably will do a few more videos with the F-100 just because I think I have been neglecting it over the last couple of years. Anyway, thanks for watching.